we gotta hide. Come on.
Yeah, we gotta get out of here fast.
Wow, what a terrific audience. It's been a while since I did a South Park video. And don't get me wrong, I still enjoy reviewing South Park and I have plenty of other ideas to come, but I've also had a serious case of writer's block lately when it comes to doing shows. And since it's August and I'm going away for a little while, that means I tend to do smaller videos so I can have more time to myself. So we're gonna try to avert that by writing while I have cramps. Why is it every time I record a South Park video I get uterus cramps? Hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about South Park, or more specifically, Jimmy Swanson. Wait, but Kitty, that's not his real name. He says it in Crazy Cripples.
I'm Jim Swanson, and this is my friend, Timmy. Timmy!
Kitty, it's actually Volmer. Even the South Park wiki said, quote, "The South Park Studios FAQ states that the names of many South Park characters, including Jimmy, have changed because of the show's fast-paced production, which results in the original name occasionally being forgotten and replaced with a new one." I guess we're just splitting hairs here. Now, South Park is a show all about being politically correct, by being as politically incorrect as possible. In most shows, disabled people often fall into a stereotype called the super crip, where they will have no personality and just be pedestals to espouse the message of, I'm disabled and that makes me special. But let's not get into the actual daily struggles, just surface level stuff. Or there'll be something for able-bodied people to pity so they'll feel better about themselves.
This poor woman is forced to live in the shadows because she feels like an outcast. It is up to us to make her feel comfortable and welcome in our town.
Really, I think the show that put it best besides South Park was Steven Universe, where Amethyst is considered disabled by homeworld standards because she's overcooked, and she has to face the fact that there are things she unfortunately will never be able to be or do. But that doesn't mean she isn't any less of a person.
And everyone's always acting like there's no problem. You can be anything you want to be. No, I can't. Can't even be the one thing I'm supposed to be.
With South Park, they remind us that disabled people are still people like you and me. They can have flaws, they can have strengths. Like with Nurse Golem, who hated the extra attention people gave her, not for her skills as a nurse or her wit as a person, but for the simple fact she was disabled, and it made them feel good to be like, oh, that poor girl.
The last thing I ever wanted was to be singled out. I just wanted to do my job and live my life like any normal person, but instead you've made everybody focus on my handicap.
Which is hella patronizing. Heck, one of my biggest rules of rep is that a person from that group is still a person, and that means they can be jerks, creeps, geeks, and babies. But you need to make the point they're like that because of how they are, not because of race, ethnicity, whatever. Jimmy fits into this really nicely. So, let's discuss. In Jimmy's first episode, Cripple Fight, he was totally different from how he acts in the later episodes. Really installing weirdness. But Jimmy was a jerk. Not a jerk like Nathan, more like he just didn't know any better. The kids are in the Scouts, and while I have problems with the Big Gay Al plotline, I like Timmy's plot. Timmy is disabled himself, and he's friends with the boys, whereas Jimmy, he's disabled, but he often uses comedy. Not to overcome it, but because he's just a good comedian, and that's pretty cool.
What a brave little boy. He's able to use comedy to overcome his handicap. I love him.
Oh my god, Sheila, did you not learn your lesson from Nurse Golem?
Oh my, what an ungrateful... Yeah, the nerve of some people.
Oh, I guess you didn't. Jimmy performs for the Scouts, and they love it. Timmy, on the other hand, gets jealous because he's disabled and nobody ever found him special. Heck, I think his resentment also comes from an earlier episode where Timmy joined a band called the Lords of the Underworld, and lots of people, including Phil Collins, were angry he was even a part of it because they thought they were helping him, not hiding him from view. Which maybe you can argue in-universe the townsfolk learn to be more accepting, hence why they act that way around Jimmy, but for Timmy, yeah, it does suck. Plus, we know, considering the future specials and the Photoshop episode, that Timmy does kinda resent his disability, whereas Jimmy thinks it's a part of his identity, so maybe that hurts a little more. As for Jimmy, well, he has no clue Timmy hates him, and he keeps unintentionally antagonizing him.
For my next joke, I'm gonna need a volunteer from the audience very much. How about you, Timmy? Timmy. Sure, come on up here, Tim.
How dare you call him Tim Tim? He is not a murderous moppet. Timmy spends the whole episode trying to get rid of Jimmy, until Jimmy tries to fight him because he won't listen or something.
Timmy, when I tell you to do something, you do it. Timmy, don't make me kick your ass. Timmy, put on your hat. Put it on. Dude.
Fight! They fight, which I hear is a reference to a movie, but nothing gets accomplished.
I guess we learned an important lesson too, very much. There is room for more than one handy-capable person in Scouts. Timmy! I'm glad we're best friends now. See you at Scouts. Timmy!
And in the end, Timmy does get rid of Jimmy by taking advantage of their policy of disallowing gay people.
Timmy! What? Hey, wait a minute. This is crazy. You can't do this. No! Timmy!
Oh no! Still, Jimmy does fall into the Elijah Michelson treatment. Again, much like Timmy. He was only supposed to be in the one episode, but the fans and the writers loved him so much that he came back as a main character. Now, one reason South Park has a huge disability fan base is because of how the show treats them. Yes, I already talked about how they are as people, but there's also how their fellow kids treat them. They don't see disability. As in, it's not like a race thing. They just don't care that they're disabled and treat them like anybody else.
Oh, and what disease is that? She has a dead fetus attached to her head. She does?
You never noticed that?
No, I never did.
Which I think is kind of cool. Like, nobody ever stares, nobody ever pities. It's so sweet. Even the most bigoted characters treat them like any other person. They're not uncomfortable or anything. Like when Jimmy had to sing the 12 Days of Christmas song, but he has a stutter. And they just stood there and listened because he was just a little kid.
Me,
Oh no.
Or yes, in some episodes, which I'll get to, Cartman does take advantage of Jimmy, and one time he did beat him up, but it's not because he hates disabled people. He was just an easy target.
And don't you ever talk bad about Kyle again! Kyle is my friend! Oh, Kyle, hey.
You really think that beating up a handicapped kid is being nice?
Granted, the one time I did not like Jimmy was in the episode Funnybot, but even then, I'll just rationalize it as Jimmy is still a person and he's allowed to be flawed. I just find it kind of frustrating because it just feels really out of character. See, Jimmy holds an award show that he forces the entire school to attend, including students and faculty. Not because he's passionate of comedy, but because he just wants attention.
This is the greatest day of my life. Thanks, everyone, for this incredible award. Can we go now? Go? We still have over 50 awards to hand out.
Obviously, the episode is meant to do what Uncle Grandpa did, or they make fun of award shows that air on networks, but not to celebrate the arts, to advertise the network. Like how, because the KCAs airs on Nickelodeon, SpongeBob always wins, whereas if it aired on Cartoon Network, Teen Titans Go would probably win. So outside of Tyler Perry arriving to take his award as Medea,
good afternoon. Hello. I'd also really like to thank my...
Okay, thanks, Tyler Perry.
Jimmy basically says, oh, I guess this big celebrity who has no clue this award show exists clearly doesn't want the award, so I'll just take it.
I guess unfortunately the Germans could not be with us tonight, so I will accept this award on their behalf. Auf Wiedersehen.
And don't get me wrong, I think Jimmy's a good comedian, but it just feels weird. And then he spends the whole episode insisting the award show is a massive success when it isn't.
Just don't understand it, Dad. It's like nobody cared about winning their comedy award. The only people that showed up were me and Tyler Perry.
Uh-huh.
I really feel like I did all that work for nothing.
Heck, thanks to his award show, the Germans are angry that apparently he doesn't find them funny. So they hold the whole school hostage at gunpoint, and he doesn't care.
I know Germany isn't happy with us, but you have to admit that in a lot of ways, the first annual Comedy Awards was a big success.
A big success? You can't even get Tyler Perry to go back home!
Hallelujah!
Even if any other episode, he'd be freaking out like, fellas, I'm sorry, or something along those lines. Heck, to show they mean business, the Germans make Funnybot, which I hated this episode, and I know a lot of people hate this episode, but I guess we should reevaluate it considering AI. Like the idea it's putting comedians out of business. I mean, that was one of the reasons for the strikes.
But a woman? Them things think quick! Will somebody get Tyler Perry to shut up?
And honestly, I don't mind if a fan uses AI for a laugh or a meme or something because they're just doing it for themselves. But obviously, you shouldn't use AI for monetary reasons because it's gonna put people out of work. Do you guys really want another Skynet? Heck, thanks to Funnybot, a bunch of real comedians lose their jobs.
Oh wow, it's Adam Sandler.
Everyone into the school gymnasium. Move!
No, dude, don't make us go back
Into the gymnasium now!
Jimmy, please take the accountability you're typically known for. I guess he does kind of do it in the end. Funnybot wants to pull off the ultimate joke, which is basically nuking humanity. And the way the boys stop him is by having Jimmy present him with a comedy award, which triggers a fridge logistical nightmare that kills him.
Comedy award. Unable to process. Comedy award is... What is the meaning? If I accept, it means I take comedy seriously.
We should do that when the AI comes. However, I will say Jimmy is actually a pretty good comedian when he puts his mind to it. I do wonder who is the funnier kid though, him or Bobby Hill. Debate down below. I command you. But there are episodes that focus on his comedy. Let's start with the episode Election Day. Kitty, it's not called that. I don't care. The school talent show is coming up and Jimmy is excited to compete because he wins every year. But unfortunately, he has a little problem. Every time he goes up to perform, he gets, let's call rattlesnake.
Alright, kid, that's enough.
The rattlesnake gives Jimmy a healthy dose of stage fright, which, I'll be honest, all comedians, all performers get stage fright. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying. Like Bill Hader had an anxiety attack on air on SNL because he had such bad stage fright. Jimmy wonders why he keeps getting rattlesnakes, and honestly, I do too. My best guess is 1, he's growing up, and 2, maybe it's some kind of subconscious stage fright. Like when I go to record, suddenly I'll get super hot, or my nose gets all runny, even if I'm not sick or I have a cold. And I found out it's because I get nervous. Doesn't matter if I'm in my own house talking about a show I've reviewed a dozen times, if I'm in my sister's closet where there's nobody around to hear, or if I'm on my back porch at 3 a.m. Doesn't even matter if I'm in a hotel room. I will always get nervous even if I know nobody's going to listen. But Seth Meyers gave me some pretty good advice when I met him during one of his tapings. Just relax and lean into it. So, I do try to do that. You can argue that Jimmy wins every year, so what does he have to worry about?
And you win every time. How come you're always so dead set on this?
I can't just not compete. I'd be letting him down. The fans down.
You mean besides the fact he wins every year, he needs to keep up that win streak. That just gives you added pressure. Plus, speaking from experience, because I also perform in front of audiences during masquerades at cons, it's 10 times more nerve-wracking when you're doing it in front of people you know, because you know what to expect and you don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't know why. Like, I know they probably aren't judging me, but I guess it's because you feel more of a need to impress them. With strangers, they don't know who you are, and they don't care. And you don't know who they are and they don't care. So it just removes the whole fear component. And I hate to say it because NJ, PA, and NYC, their con scenes are arguably super cliquey. That just makes it worse for me because I know there's going to be at least one person there who knows me. Honestly, I thought Jimmy was gonna do that in the end. Like realize he's just nervous about the talent show, but we'll get there when we get there. Jimmy goes to Butters, who is quite experienced in the matters of creamy goo, as you may recall, and tells him the one way he can get rid of it is by putting the rattlesnake in a basket, if you catch my drift. Jimmy, you're like 9, that's illegal. First off, Jimmy tries to flirt with a girl, but it doesn't work. So he decides to buy a lady of the night named, let's go with Trixie, okay? Does that work for everybody? It works for me. What I find funny is Jimmy thinks that even if he's paying Trixie to spend time with him, he still feels the need to woo her and act like he cares, not because he just wants to be polite or something.
You don't have to take me to dinner or be nice to me.
What? For real?
You paid me, so you gotta do me. It's that simple.
Well, jumping Jesus, what are we wasting our time here for then?
But as she points out, there really is no need. She'll do whatever just because he's paying her. All of this leads into a high-speed chase with Trixie's boss, and Jimmy carries her away, presumably to do stuff. Nice. Not saying it's good, it's just so over the top I can't help but find it funny. Not saying it's good. Jimmy goes to the talent show, and he seems to be performing really well. He's got the crowd excited, but he gets a rattlesnake.
You gotta be kidding me.
And the episode just ends. That's weird. Just saying, this ending always surprises me. It's funny, don't get me wrong, like Jimmy went through all of this crap and it still happened, but I thought Jimmy would do something with it. Like perhaps realize nobody noticed, or he puts like a book in front of him, or they think it's all part of the act, or he incorporates it into the act, and that's how he wins. Seriously, did Jimmy even end up winning? I hope he did, because the Goths and their song about how talent shows suck was pretty good and non-conformist. Not to mention, Ike's rendition of Yankee Doodle Dandy was so cute, even though he is a proud Canadian. Like, I'm surprised. Still, I think it goes without saying that Jimmy is funny. Come on, he even created the funniest joke in the world. In Fishsticks, Jimmy is trying to write some jokes. The problem, the same one that's plaguing me, writer's block. I hate you so much. Corbin comes over, not to help Jimmy, but to eat some potato chips, rather than the fruit that Jimmy's mom offers.
Here's some fruit, boys. Better for you than potato chips. Ooh, Jimmy, look out. There's a black widow.
Wow, thanks, Mom. You might have saved my life.
I say as I eat my Chinese food. But Eureka! Jimmy has come up with the joke. The joke is a play on words, and it goes like this. Do you like fish sticks? Sticks. I said sticks. You like to put fish sticks in your mouth. Well, what are you? A gay fish? It sucks whenever I try to tell my family this joke, they never get it. Clearly, it's because they all support Kanye, or they're all women. Clearly, it's the first one. Ironically, that's not unlike how the joke got started. See, with many shows that run for years and years, they often have what's called a writer's retreat a few weeks before production begins on a new season. Chances are they haven't seen each other in months, and they have an opportunity to start pitching ideas. At a writer's retreat in Seattle, Matt and Trey and Bill Hader, because he was a producer for a little while and voiced a bunch of characters, ended up seeing salmon leaping from a stream and made a joke about Kanye West dressed like Evel Knievel leaping like the salmon, because he did it in the music video for Touch the Sky and there was a whole lawsuit. I never heard that song though, nor have I heard him say nothing's ever promised tomorrow today, and then the joke would continue with him going on a talk show and swearing up and down he isn't a fish.
Yo, that is messed up, yo. I am not gay, and I sure as hell ain't no fish, alright?
You really don't get it.
Hey man, I'm a genius, alright?
Then, on the 4-hour drive home, the pair came up with the Fishsticks joke, in reference to Kanye, and the van driver just didn't get it. See, I tied my life back into the show in a positive way. The joke spreads like wildfire after a gender reveal, and it's all thanks to Jimmy, not Cartman, no matter how much he insists. He just sat around and ate chips. Hey, that rhymes. But as expected, there's one person who did not get the joke, and you're never gonna guess who it is. Kanye West? Kanye West.
Do you like fish sticks? Love them. You're a gay fish. No, I'm not. Ah!
But how is this possible? He's a lyrical genius and a voice of a generation. Maybe if somebody spelled it out for him. But I can't do that. I'm doing a video. So Kanye continues sulking, and his fan base joking about it doesn't help.
Kanye, look, we all think it would be better if you would just drop it. You know, I mean, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
What do you mean I don't get it, House? I'm a genius.
Like, no offense, I get it. Your ego is as fragile as wet toilet paper during a hurricane, but did you not see the aftermath of Chris Rock getting slapped? It renewed a tension in him, and he was playing sold-out shows for months afterwards. You must be making a ton of more money right now, all because you don't get a joke. Feed into the meme, like I do by being a gay eggplant, or that fat chick who dresses up like a giant butterfly. And besides, they tried explaining the joke to you. While this fiasco was going on, Cartman says that he and Jimmy should patent the joke. That way they'll get money from it. Jimmy doesn't think it's ethical.
How do you live with yourself? You know you had nothing to do with the Fishsticks joke, but you just keep pretending. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? That's what I want to know!
Unfortunately, Jimmy is too meek to tell him no, but Craig advises him that unfortunately, you gotta do what you gotta do, because Cartman is never gonna stop and they both know it.
Jimmy, if Cartman didn't write the joke, then definitely don't sign any patent papers with him. Just say, Cartman, you didn't have anything to do with this joke and you know it. Just give him half.
And, well, my idea is always to say, like, make it seem like it's their idea. Well, sometimes that's your only viable option, and it's really hard to do it. On the bright side, at least Jimmy would be getting some recognition. Still, I don't know how in the world you would patent a joke. You didn't go on air and say it, but, like, how is it gonna work? Like, every time a little kid says it, you get $1? Or they don't have any money. Plus, I feel like fair use is a thing. Like, that would be a hilarious episode. Perhaps Cartman wants to sue because, say, Jimmy Fallon uses the joke during his monologue, so he wastes all of his money he got from the joke by trying him in court. And the judge rules for Jimmy Fallon, meaning Cartman is back to being broke. Or Cartman does win a bunch of money, but he essentially gets pennies thanks to his lawyer fees. And since we've wasted time prattling, somebody has claimed they created the joke. Carlos Mencia, whoever that is.
Well, I was just kicking it with my homies and my brain. My brain's always so full of ideas because I'm so funny and stuff. That's just how I came up with it, mi amigos.
Honestly, if it weren't for South Park, I would have no clue who he is. Well, that or the Proud Family revival, but I heard it's not that good. This gets Carlos Mencia the attention he probably wanted, as Kanye's posse has hunted him down to beat him up with a bat.
Think you can make fun of me? I'm a genius. I'm the voice of a generation. What are you? Nothing! Look at me, man!
Listen to all of my viewers. If you plagiarize, you won't suffer a blow to your character or academic consequences. You'll be hunted down by a celebrity with a god complex and then beaten to death. And every orifice of your corpse will be stuffed with fish sticks, as a warning to others. Still, I gotta say, I like the way Carlos Mencia dies. Like he's gonna give him the middle finger.
Why? Look at me! Look at me! I love fish sticks. I love putting fish sticks in my mouth.
You're a gay fish, man.
Jimmy and Cartman find out from Ellen, surprised she doesn't have her own episode yet, that Carlos Mencia died, and they start freaking out. And they have actual reason to fear for their lives now when Kanye shows up, ready to wreak havoc.
Dude, it's Puff Daddy!
Tie up these motherfish!
So, did he want Cartman dead because he made the joke and it bruised his ego, or because Cartman doesn't know who he is, and that bruised his ego? Like, no offense, I like to listen to Kanye's music when I was a kid, and sometimes still today, even if I don't support him, obviously, but 9-year-old me had no clue who he was or what he looked like. Like, I just knew he was the guy who sang the song Love Lockdown. God, I'm old. Cartman tells his side of the story, which, okay, I know I made the point about mental gymnastics, but I like to go into these videos with the idea that many of you are watching it for the first time.
Your ego is so out of whack that it will do whatever it can to protect itself. And people with a messed up ego can do these mental gymnastics to convince themselves they're awesome.
Another inspiration for this episode is comedians or writers who steal jokes or ideas and claim them as their own, because Matt and Trey have seen it firsthand. And their idea, which I think can be applied to most delusional people, is mental gymnastics, where people make up lies and they believe them because it's better than accepting the truth, that they're to blame for their actions, and not Mr. Booze. Cartman honestly convinced himself that he wrote the joke, to the point of delusion, and the story gets more and more convoluted.
Like fish sticks in your mouth? What are you, a gay fish? There! Wow, Eric, incredible. Too bad to take all the credit. Suck it.
But because he doesn't want to admit it, he ends up thinking Jimmy is a lying liar and not him, so he takes the credit, even though Kanye would kill him. Like, I thought Historia was a martyr.
Jesus, Eric, he's gonna kill you! You won't even admit it was just me, knowing you're gonna die? Jimmy, you really believe that you came up with it all on your own? Oh my god, wait.
Somehow, this whole speech appeals to Kanye, who thinks that he has a messed up ego. Well, I mean, he does, but you get my drift. And he decides the people were trying to help him, not help him by teaching him common sense, or make fun of him for his lack thereof. And he must finally admit to himself that he will get out of the closet and admit he's a gay fish.
Couldn't take it when people made fun of me, but they weren't making fun of me. They were trying to help me. Boys, I understand what you did now.
At least he's happy. Still, I think an underrated part of Jimmy's character is his journalistic integrity. Like, in Quest for Ratings, the boys are trying to run their own news show. Super Skill News. But nobody watches it, as it just lays out cold hard facts.
And that's all for Super School News. Enjoy your day at South Park Elementary.
Like, I'm surprised. My pet peeve about news shows is when the anchors keep making stupid small talk, like, just report that damn news and do your job. That's why I'm watching you. So they decide to rebrand to be more appealing to kids, even if it means destroying their journalistic integrity, which Jimmy certainly cares about.
Ooh, interview with the vice president. Frankly, Jimmy, I don't know how we're gonna fit that in between cheerleader pie eating and Who's Got Skid Marks Monday.
I feel like you could do informative news shows but make them fun for people, like how John Green does, and provide the facts. Or like how Adam Conover does. I mean, I like to do research for my top 10 list since we both learn something, and video essays are a thing, but yeah, I know they are a niche, and you need to keep people's attention. I think that's why the algorithm favors shorter videos. Well, that and revenue on YouTube is based on your watch hours, so a shorter video means they have to pay you less and less. Like at one point, he gets an interview with Vice President Cheney, and nobody freaking cares, even if they could probably edit it to make it seem fun. And I think this led into Jimmy eventually becoming the editor of the Super School newspaper. Oh yeah, that. Okay, here we go. Now, the main reason I wanted to cover Jimmy was because of the episode's sponsored content. As some of you might know, my South Park video started when I analyzed the show's disability rep as a final project for my disability class. Like, that whole video was my final project. And I did not expect it to take off. Like, they showed the video to the dean and everything. And I think that's part of how I got to do a final semester independent study with her. Kudos. But one thing I wanted to review, which I wrote in everything at the time, was Jimmy's actions in sponsored content. But before we had to submit the assignment, we did a one-on-one with the professor so she would approve the idea. And she wasn't too keen on sponsored content. I'll explain. PC Principal is having his daily dose of something is offensive and I must be a literal white knight. This time, somebody published a headline in the school newspaper which used the R word. An obvious no-no, as he even said that's a word you really can't use anymore all the way back in his first appearance.
I'm here because this place is lost in a time warp. Students who still use the word fish.
He's on a warpath and demands to know who is responsible, so he can, quote, break their legs.
He's in charge of the school paper. You gonna break his legs, PC Principal?
Damn, Stan. PC Principal invites, well, more like forces, Jimmy into his office. And it's obvious that for as much as PC Principal is a white knight, which I probably can't say because it's likely a slur, well, he has his own biases. I mean, come on, did y'all not see Avenue Q? PC Principal is uncomfortable around people with disabilities, or probably marginalized groups who don't agree with him.
Look, I don't want to get angry, okay?
Why? Are you uncomfortable around people with disabilities? That's okay. Lots of people are.
No, I'm not. I am very not uncomfortable.
Dude, it's okay to admit it. You're fine. Jimmy doesn't care, and you're not any less of a person if you do. And I think the main reason Jimmy is cool with it is even if the town of South Park is cool with him, well, he didn't always live in South Park. I'm sure he's encountered kids who were uncomfortable around him, either because he was pitied or they didn't know how to act around him. But once they got to know him, they realized he was a cool guy. Especially since his parents said they thought he was born as karma for them making fun of crippled kids in high school.
God made you the way he did for a reason.
Right, because you and Mom used to make fun of crippled kids in high school.
That's right. You were sent here through the vengeful and angry hand of God to teach your mother and I a lesson.
They could be like, people are gonna pity you, son, because we have to pay for our sins. But back to the issue at hand. The fact Jimmy, who is disabled and is the editor of the school paper, allowed the R word to be used.
Can you understand that at all?
That was an op-ed piece in the paper written by a first grader who found the school lunch policy to be ridiculous. As the editor of the paper, I didn't think it was right to censor the words the student used.
When I first did the project, I said I wanted to review this episode. Like, as part of it, not on its own. And I think the main reason I wasn't allowed to is I did not explain the episode correctly. My professor also didn't watch South Park, so that didn't help. But thankfully, we did get her to watch squirrel jokes from SpongeBob, and she liked that episode. Anyway, see, one reason I like the episode is I'm a minority, and something you realize is, with minorities, while you obviously should be accepting and welcoming of people, not everybody cares.
You see, the R word is very bad.
Says who?
Says me, alright? And I know a thing or two about the rights of people with disabilities.
Not because of confirmation bias or we don't know any better, but because there's bigger things to worry about, or people can explain their reasons. I mean, Latinx is the politically correct term for Latino Americans, and I hate both of those words. Heck, most Latinos I know who are cisgender hate that word. No joke, growing up, because my neighborhood was mostly Latino or Hispanic, you just called yourself Spanish because that was what everybody spoke. Unless you were Portuguese or came from a country that spoke Portuguese, then you were just Portuguese. On my dad's side, I'm Afro-Cuban and Puerto Rican, and I would just say I'm Spanish. And everybody would accept that. It's just what we did. But when we got to high school, they had to drill into us the difference between Latino and Hispanic for when we applied to colleges. And we were asked what we were, just in case. Or hey, I've met autistic people who, while they know the term Asperger's is considered outdated, they still don't mind identifying as such because it's still a term people know and it works for them. And I think that's kind of cool. I think my problem was I just said the episode is, oh, Jimmy's disabled, but he publishes an article with the R word. So she probably thought they were gonna say the R word the whole episode for the sake of it. Like in the sense of, oh, he's disabled, so we can use it 100 times. So yeah, I can get that, and I don't mind I wasn't allowed to talk about it. I can do it justice here. Plus, it was fun presenting a few clips in class because a lot of people did not know whether to laugh or not. Like, I didn't even know if I was allowed to. And when I showed a clip of Nurse Golem telling off the parents, my professor actually said she liked that Nurse Golem got the last word. But I wonder, why did Jimmy let the word be used? Like, surely that's one of the worst things you could call him. Well, he does explain it. He doesn't want people to be afraid of words. And I respect that.
So you don't understand how seriously I take my job as editor of the school paper. I don't allow ads, and I don't allow anything that might taint the truth behind what people are thinking. I don't want people to be afraid of words if it stops them from having a dialogue.
But I think another reason you can also argue is he knows the kid did not use it in the sense of hating another disabled person or being ableist towards the cafeteria workers. He just used it in general. Plus, Jimmy is around kids and adults who probably use the word 24/7. I mean, he even brings that up to Nathan.
What were you doing in there? What do you mean, Jimmy? Are you mad? Come on, Nathan. You and I both know you use the word 400 times a day.
And like the F word pointed out, even if it doesn't make it any better, with some people, especially in the 2000s and early 2010s, you just used a word with negative connotations, not to hate, but just for the sake of it, because you didn't mean it like that. I don't know, you know what I mean. Like Jimmy probably just figured, okay, that word makes more of an impact than just saying stupid, and he probably meant stupid, so okay, he can say it. Also, I guess I should point out, with apologies to Jesse Jackson, where Token was upset that Randy used the N-word, one of the worst words you could use. But here, Jimmy doesn't care that another kid used the R word. I think it's a nice contrast because, again, some people might not care, but hey, some people do. And that's fine too. They're entitled to how they want to think. Plus, I feel like Token, while the word did obviously upset him, he was also upset that Stan and his father kept downplaying the incident.
Dude, Jesse Jackson said it's okay.
Jesse Jackson is not the emperor of black people.
Told my dad he was.
Anyhow, I do not mean for this to be super long, but PC Principal is obviously upset that Jimmy won't bend to his will. So he decrees that Jimmy isn't allowed to publish the newspaper at school anymore unless it's approved by him. Because he can indeed do that. That was a whole Supreme Court case. Look it up.
It is not being distributed on campus. You got that?
I can't hand out the school paper in school?
Not unless it is proved by me. Do you understand?
Yep, got it.
The next morning, PC Principal goes to get the paper, and Jimmy just switched tactics. Instead of being in school, he'll give it to the kids and the teachers who live in town.
Suck my PC Principal.
Wow, good for you, Jimmy. I think what makes this better is that PC Principal could stop this whole, charade at any time. But because of his political beliefs, he just can't.
Sometimes victims of oppression are so marginalized that they begin to sympathize with their oppressors.
Yeah, bro. You're right. This kid just needs to be shown he's being an Uncle Abel.
Excuse me?
This kid just needs to be shown he's being an Uncle Abel.
Did you not watch this show or listen to any of my rantings? Fun fact, during production on Two Fairies Tats 2000, when Timmy appeared for the first time, Comedy Central was worried that viewers would be offended, and not in a good way, even if he was only in the scene for like 2 seconds. And when the episode aired, pretty much most of the complaints came from able-bodied viewers. Come on, disabled people love Timmy, and they love Jimmy. I believe in being accommodating and inclusive, but I think a step towards that is asking what those people want, because their opinion matters most. Maybe we don't know what we're doing is patronizing to them. RIP is showing to other people why they deserve to be accepted. You should do your research, involve them in the conversation, show that you care about them as people, not because of what they are. Again, that's why I hate Latinx, because that's a term no Latino ever uses, and it just feels like you're talking down to me when I'm called that. Not to mention, none of the PC bros are marginalized themselves. What do they know about disabled people? They don't get to decide. Like, remember how back when PC Principal first appeared, they gave Kyle, aka the Jewish kid who has kosher lunches, a bunch of pigs labeled bigot? Which maybe you can argue it's because maybe they did not know Kyle was Jewish, but that's why you do your research. Instead, PC Principal tries to show how much he loves disabled people by pandering, like inviting Nathan to talk to Jimmy, well, at Jimmy.
That word makes my heart piss its pants.
Pretty heavy, huh, Jim?
Do you want to ask him what he means by that, or are you just pandering because you're uncomfortable around disabled people?
Dude, are you gonna do a very special episode on Nathan? Where instead of showing us his daily struggles or the fact that he's a jerk because he's a jerk, or that he doesn't need to be babied, you'll just be like, if I can, you can too.
I like apples and bananas.
Like, even Jimmy points out that Nathan is not a paragon of disability rights because he uses the R-word dozens of times a day.
And it's part of a derogatory hate speech which fosters isolation and loneliness, and being part of a voice to stop the R-word is not only right but extremely important.
I'm afraid of bears.
Furthermore, PC Principal hosts a gala to help disabled kids, but we'll argue that he at least cares and probably means well. His frat brothers are not the same as him, as they're only using it as a chance to score, as they never engage the kids they're supposed to help.
I'm Brad, I'm PC Arizona State.
Nice to meet you, Brad. Where do you
Excuse me a second. Hello, ladies. Thanks for coming to our event.
Hi.
We're just tired of the way people with disabilities get treated.
So Jimmy gets his revenge by running a newspaper article on the PC frat bros and exposing them as being disingenuous. Good job, Jimmy. Good for you. It even gets media attention, and the PC bros retaliate by hosting a hunger strike. They will not eat out women until the article is retracted. No, those poor girls. Furthermore, we see Jimmy stick to his principles when an advertising specialist wants him to run an article on Geico, aka sponsored content, where Jimmy would talk about the virtues of Geico but disguise it as an article, so people won't know it's an ad until it's too late. Jimmy refuses, even if he's offered a ton of money for it.
That's called sponsored content. I know the difference between the news and ads. You think I'm stupid?
Everyone's doing it, Jim. You're sort of the last holdout.
And I gotta applaud him for it because it almost gets him shot. Heck, he seems to get a small fan base out of this new newspaper because people like Steve and Chris love it, as it has no ads and no algorithms. Well, it's mostly Steve and Chris, but hey, it's a start.
But this is just news. And I don't get lost. Linda? Linda!
Jimmy discovers that his distrust in ads was warranted, as Not Bill Hader anchor guy reveals that ads have taken on human form, and they want to price humankind out of existence so they can take over. And Jimmy, he has the uncanny ability to tell apart an ad and a real article, and he does 100% on a simulation.
That's a perfect score. You are a very special child, Jimmy.
I prefer handicapped, actually.
Without a success, Jimmy is put to the task of interrogating a girl named Leslie, aka the girl PC Principal hated and called the police on, and putting her through the Turing test. Weirdly, Leslie now sounds like some weird child adopted by Siri and Alexa.
But don't you feel like you could be happier?
What? Can you excuse me for a moment?
Okay.
Wait, remember that joke I made? Well, there's a reason for that.
Does she know she's an ad?
Drama bomb! Jimmy keeps trying to get more info out of Leslie, but she uses her advertising wiles to seduce him. And it seems like Jimmy has not tamed the rattlesnake. And Jimmy now thinks that Leslie doesn't know she's an ad and she needs to be freed.
I'm starting to think that maybe all ads aren't so bad.
Jimmy, you're thinking with your...
Yeah, he's got a point, Jimmy. Leslie lies and says she can help, but he has to free her. And as Jimmy, much like me, hasn't seen Ex Machina, he follows her lead. And he gets beaten up for it, and the world almost ends.
Leslie, I thought we were besties. Hey there, big man. Editor of the school paper, huh?
Well, I guess this isn't the first time Jimmy doomed all of mankind in the pursuit of his selfish desires when he's told not to. Guess I'd have 2 nickels. But it does show Jimmy is a well-rounded character and a great icon for a rep. Really, more kids should try to be like him. He's fun to watch, and I had a great time getting to review this episode. Anyhow, bye!